The horses didn't sleep that night. They paced, snorted, and stared into the dark like they were waiting for someone. By morning, the gate was open, and fresh hoofprints led into the trees. Someone had been riding Heartland's horses at midnight. The night at Heartland was too quiet. It's the kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl. The moon hung low over the fields, washing the ranch in pale silver light. Inside the barn, the horses shifted restlessly. Spartan stamped the ground again and again, his ears locked toward the trees. No wind moved the grass. No, coyotes cried out. Yet something felt wrong. By sunrise, Amy was already awake. She walked toward the pasture with a mug of cold coffee in her hands, her eyes heavy from a night of broken sleep. That's when she saw it. The main gate was open. Not broken. Not forced. Just unlatched, clean and careful, like someone had done it 100 times before. Her heart dropped. Amy stepped closer and froze. Hoofprints cut through the soft dirt, fresh and deep. One set led away from the barn straight toward the old trail that ran through the woods. These weren't random marks. The stride was steady, balanced, confident. Whoever rode last night knew exactly what they were doing. Jack came up behind her, his face turning serious the moment he saw the ground. He crouched down, touching the prints with 2 fingers. "These aren't from yesterday," he said quietly. This was late, very late. Lou joined them, panic already rising in her voice. Horses loose at night meant danger. Lawsuits, accidents, loss. But Amy wasn't thinking about money or rules. She was thinking about the horses, about why Spartan looked tired, about why Lisa's mare flinched when Amy touched her reins. Then Amy noticed something else. A faint mark near the fence. Leather against wood. A saddle had rested there. No one at Heartland had ridden that night. Amy slowly lifted her eyes toward the trees. The trail disappeared into shadow, thick and dark. Whoever rode the horses didn't steal them. They brought them back. They left no mess, no noise, no trace, except the prints. And that was what scared her most, because it meant the rider wasn't careless. They were careful, and they might come back. By the second night, Heartland felt different. Not loud, not broken. Just uneasy, like the ranch was holding its breath. Amy noticed it first, while brushing Spartan. His muscles stayed tight beneath her hands, and every small sound made his head snap up. This wasn't fear from an animal spooked by noise. This was the fear of a horse that had been handled by someone unfamiliar. But skilled Lou checked the locks again and again. Every gate was secured. Every stall counted. Yet sleep didn't come easy. Somewhere past midnight, the barn lights flickered once, then went still. No alarms went off. No doors slammed. But in the pasture, one horse let out a low warning sound that echoed across the fields. The next morning, Ami found the water trough disturbed. Mud smeared along the edge, fresh and damp. Someone had stood there. Someone tall enough to lean comfortably, patient enough to stay unseen. The horses gathered near the fence, ears forward, eyes alert, as if waiting for a signal only they understood. Jack tried to calm everyone down, but even he couldn't explain what bothered him. He had lived on this land his whole life. He knew every sound, every shadow, every rhythm of the ranch. And lately, the rhythm felt off. "Horses don't lie," he said quietly. "If they're nervous, there's a reason." Amy walked the outer trail alone that afternoon. She found more signs, small ones. A bent branch. A scuffed rock. Marks only a rider would notice. The path led toward the old ridge overlook, a place hardly anyone used anymore. A place someone would only choose if they wanted privacy. That's when it hit her. This rider wasn't testing the ranch. They weren't stealing. They were watching. Watching how the gates were locked. Watching which horses reacted. Watching who noticed the signs and who didn't. As the sun dropped behind the hills, Amy felt it deep in her chest. The Midnight Rider wasn't done. They were learning Heartland's habits. And soon, they would take a bigger risk. The third morning changed everything. Amy knew the moment she stepped into the barn. One of the stalls was empty. The gate hung closed, just like the others, but the space inside felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. Her breath caught in her throat as she scanned the paddock, counting heads again and again. Then she saw him. Phoenix stood near the far fence, head low, sweat still darkening his coat. His sides moved fast, as if he'd been ridden hard and brought home only minutes before sunrise. When Amy reached for him, he flinched. Not in pain, but in memory. Like his body remembered hands that weren't hers, Amy checked his legs. One shoe was loose. His tack mark was uneven, unfamiliar. Whoever rode him didn't panic. They adjusted. They pushed him just enough. This wasn't joyriding. This was control. Lou was furious. "This ends now," she said. "We call the police. We put cameras everywhere." But Amy barely heard her. Her eyes were locked on a thin scratch along Phoenix's flank. Not from branches. Not from a fall. From a spur. That detail hit her hardest. Only an experienced rider would wear spurs like that. Only someone confident would ride at night, take a horse, return it, and leave no trace of fear behind. This person wasn't reckless. They were precise. Later that day, Amy found something near the trail entrance, half buried in dirt. A piece of leather strap, worn soft with age. Not new. Not store-bought. Hand-stitched. Familiar in a way that made her chest tighten. Jack recognized it instantly but said nothing. That silence told Amy more than words ever could. As night fell again, the ranch lights glowed softly against the dark fields. Everything looked normal, safe. But Amy didn't go to bed. She sat by the window, boots on, jacket ready, listening to the horses breathe. Because now she knew the truth. The Midnight Rider wasn't testing Heartland anymore. They were getting braver. And next time, they might not leave quietly. Amy stood alone in the tack room long after the lights were turned off. The smell of leather and hay wrapped around her, familiar and grounding. She ran her fingers over the saddles, stopping at one that hadn't been touched in years. The rider's marks she'd seen earlier wouldn't leave her mind. The balance, the pressure, the care. This wasn't someone guessing their way through the dark. This was someone who listened to horses. Amy replayed the past. Every face that had ever stood in this barn. Every rider who knew Heartland's trails without needing a map. She hated where her thoughts were going, but she couldn't stop them. Because the truth was simple and terrifying. This rider didn't feel like a stranger. Lou begged her not to get involved. Jack warned her that some secrets didn't want to be chased. But Amy felt pulled toward the truth like a quiet force she couldn't fight. The horses had been taken without harm, returned with care. Someone out there was carrying something heavy, something unfinished. So Amy made a choice. She didn't set alarms. She didn't tell anyone her plan. As midnight crept closer, she saddled Spartan in silence. No lights, no noise. Just trust between her and the horse who knew her heart better than anyone. Spartan shifted, alert but calm, like he understood this ride mattered. Amy waited at the edge of the field, hidden by shadow. The air was cold, sharp in her lungs. Every sound felt louder in the dark. An owl cried out. Leaves rustled. Minutes stretched thin. Then she heard it. Hooves, slow, careful. Measured a shape moved near the tree line. A rider, cloaked by darkness, leading one of Heartland's horses with ease. No rush, no fear. Just purpose. Amy's pulse thundered in her ears as she guided Spartan forward, keeping her distance. Tonight. She wasn't just protecting the ranch. The rider mounted without a sound, as if the horse beneath them was an old friend. With one smooth motion, they turned toward the woods, slipping into the trail that twisted away from Heartland. Amy waited 3 long breaths before nudging Spartan forward. She kept him slow, quiet, trusting his instincts more than her eyes. Moonlight cut through the trees in broken lines. The rider stayed just ahead, never rushing, never looking back. Whoever they were, they rode with calm control, guiding the horse around roots and rocks like they had walked this path 100 times before. Amy's heart pounded harder with every step. One wrong move could spook the horses. One mistake could end in disaster. Yet something about the chase felt wrong. The rider wasn't trying to escape. They were leading her somewhere. The trail climbed higher, the air growing thinner and colder. Leaves crunched under hooves, echoing louder than Amy liked. The rider suddenly veered off the main path, heading toward the ridge overlook. Amy hesitated. That trail was narrow, dangerous at night. No one rode there after dark, but she followed. The rider pushed the horse faster now. Not reckless, but urgent. Amy urged Spartan on, branches whipping past her arms, the wind burning her eyes. The moon broke free from the clouds just as they reached the ridge, lighting the world in silver. Then, without warning, the rider disappeared. Amy pulled Spartan to a hard stop, scanning the overlook. The trail ended at open rock, the valley stretching below like a dark ocean. No rider, no horse, just silence. Her breath came fast as she dismounted. Then she saw it. The horses were being pushed. The trails were risky. One mistake could destroy everything. Amy knew she couldn't ignore it anymore. Understanding didn't erase the danger. That evening, Amy walked out to the pasture alone. She held the leather strap in her hand, lifting it where moonlight could catch it. A quiet signal. An invitation: no more shadows. No more running. If the Midnight Rider came back tonight, Amy would be waiting, ready to face the truth, no matter how painful it was. The moon sat high when the horses began to stir. Amy stood by the fence, the leather strap hanging from her hand, visible in the soft glow. She didn't hide. She didn't chase. She waited. The night felt still, like it was holding its breath along with her. Hoofbeats approached slowly. A single rider emerged from the tree line, guiding the horse with care. They stopped a few steps away. For the first time, the rider didn't turn away. They pulled back their hood just enough for Amy to see their face, older than she remembered, marked by time and regret. "I never meant to cause trouble," the rider said quietly. "I just needed to ride again." Amy stepped closer, her voice calm but firm. She spoke about the horses, about the risks, about how close everything had come to breaking. But she also spoke about home, about how Heartland wasn't a place you had to sneak into, not if you were honest. The rider listened, eyes fixed on the ground. The silence between them wasn't angry. It was heavy, real. Finally, they nodded. "I didn't think I still belonged." Amy held out the leather strap. "You do? But not like this." As the sky began to lighten, the rider dismounted. No more midnight rides. No more hiding. Some wounds don't heal in the dark. They heal when faced in the open. The horses settled. The ranch grew quiet again. But Amy knew one thing for sure. Heartland would always remember the Midnight Rider. Not as a ghost in the dark, but as a reminder that even lost souls find their way home.